So for our final sponsor spotlight before lunch, I'd like to welcome Carl Hayes. Carl is the Vice President of Business Development for Stratejm, creator of North America's premier cloud-based security as a service. He's responsible for overall growth strategy to the organization. Mr. Hayes has over 12 years of progressive experience in architecting complex IT solutions and managed security services to enterprise customers. Carl.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Pleasure. Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, as it may be. It's always interesting to start before, the lunch session. I feel like, half of you don't want to be here because the buffet's right outside. But hopefully, we're going to make it interesting, and that is my intention today over the next 15 or 20 minutes. Oops, can you guys see that presentation or no? Okay, sorry, I was looking over here. So I want to walk you through what I believe is the death of the legacy managed security services provider and what's coming in its place in terms of security as a service. Before I do that, I'll introduce myself, Carl Hayes, Partner and Vice President, Business Development at Stratejm. Stratejm in 2013 developed Canada's first and what we now claim to be North America's premier cloud-based security as a service. And to keep this presentation interesting, what I want to do is I actually want to walk you through sort of the death of an MSSP as if we're doing an autopsy and sort of a whodunit approach and what were the underlying causes that led us to get to this stage. And so first, let's define what is a traditional managed security services provider. A traditional managed security services provider, MSSP, is a partner that comes in and typically provides 24/7 management and monitoring of legacy security solutions that you have purchased and implemented in your environment. Now, what are the findings? So effectively, what are the origins of an MSSP? What are the business justifications that were used to onboard an MSSP? Were they victims of their own success? By definition, complexity by design, an unsustainable business model. And finally, who is Stratejm and what is security as a service and how does it differentiate itself from a traditional managed security services model? So first, let's talk about the origins of the MSSP. Where did they come from? Well, most MSSPs, either boutique firms or large global integrators, all started off as a value-added reseller. They were the ones that sold you your legacy SIM, your legacy IPS, IDS, and other security solutions, whether it was Palo Alto firewalls, Checkpoint firewalls, the list goes on. And it was logical that organizations looked to VARs to provide managed security services because they were seen as the experts in the field. They were the ones that had implemented the solutions that were now creating complexity in terms of being able to operationalize and optimize. And so as businesses realized, number one, that threats don't start at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time and then at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. They needed 24/7 business assurance, but what they also required was expertise to be able to not only operationalize, but optimize the solutions that they bought. Because none of these security technologies historically are set it and forget it. They're all complex. They all require constant baselining, fine-tuning, configuration in order to keep pace with the ever-changing threat landscape. What are the business justifications that were used? Well, you can see here, according to AlienVault's 2017 Cybersecurity Trends Report, what they were, okay? And I'm not going to walk through each of them, but I'm going to highlight three that I think are very relevant. First and foremost, a lack of internal security resources and expertise. So as organizations began to take the security challenge seriously, and as they began to approach that challenge by buying or investing in building a mature security program, oftentimes which included the implementation of sophisticated security technologies, they recognized that they themselves didn't have the capacity in order to be able to manage those solutions. Number two was the need for 24/7 business assurance, which is pretty self-explanatory. And number three, the reduction or elimination of false positives. And this is going to be a key point. I think one of the major challenges that drove organizations and continues to drive organizations to working with third-party security professionals, particularly in this realm of managed security, is the fact that security solutions are fraught with false positive outputs. And so you implement a SIM, and whether it's the Gartner Magic Quadrant leading solution, which I think is still QRadar, or if it's more of a niche solution like an Alien Vault, that technology is implemented. And what you come to find is that there's a lot of false positive output that's being generated from those platforms. And by definition, one has to ask, what is the value of that investment? Oh, sure, yeah, I can use that, sure. Sorry, guys. I might not even need the mic. Let's take a look. Hello? Okay. We're good. So by definition, the fact of the matter is that, again, you've made these investments, and what are you getting? You're generating a lot of false positive output that's creating absolutely no value. In fact, I would suggest it's creating negative value because the security analyst or whoever is tasked with managing those platforms day in and day out is now wasting a lot of time investigating incidents that have no real bearing or no real true positive impact on the organization. And so, again, for these reasons, organizations went to managed security service providers. Now let's talk about their business model. If we recall that MSSPs began in their infancy as VARs, and again, that's not just the boutique firms, those that are local that we all know of, but global integrators as well, like, for instance, IBM. I mean, IBM created a managed security services offering on platforms that they either developed or that they purchased, and that by definition they needed to sell you in order to be able to manage. But when you think about that model, and when you think about the fact that I, as a VAR, have the ability to sell customer A, a checkpoint firewall, customer B, a Palo Alto firewall, customer C, a Fortinet firewall, and the list goes on and on, there is inevitable complexity in the model. And the MSSPs became very quickly victims of their own success because their business model, by definition, has a tremendous amount of complexity. Where they're managing Palo Alto for you, they're managing Fortinet for somebody else. And this model does not scale well. And so by definition, as organizations went out to market, as they went to procure the services of a trusted third-party MSSP, in the beginning, I think service levels and quality of output was better than what was being realized internally. I think over time, what we've all come to recognize is that the expectations that were set are not being met. And again, complexity stands in the way. It is, by definition, a broken business model. The business model where there is a direct parallel relationship between the number of customers that the MSSP is managing relative to the number of analysts that they need in order to be able to manage that business. Now, why is that a problem? It's a problem because, of course, there's a security deficit in the marketplace. Security experts within the GTA, and I'll cite the 2015 KPMG report that profiled major North American markets for the cybersecurity deficit. They said at that time that the GTA, for every 12 cybersecurity job postings, there was one qualified candidate capable of fulfilling that role. And so where do they find these people? And more importantly, how do they retain them? How do they retain them when they're hiring students that are fresh out of college or university, that come into a shift work environment, far from ideal, over the course of the next 12 to 16 months, get a lot of training, both in terms of practical training on the ground in technology, but also in terms of practical training, just an experience in working with a large group of dynamic environments and with customers. And then after that period of time, these people are poached, generally by the banks or large enterprise, who are offering $1,000 more than what they're currently making. The MSSP cannot compete. That creates disruption to them and to their business. It also creates disruption to you and to your business. because only part of the solution here is the management of technology. The other real aspect of a MSSP's lifespan is they need to manage the relationships inside of the account. And every account has unique politics, unique characters, unique requirements, unique aspects of the MSA, et cetera, that by definition, the client has to be directly involved in bringing those individuals who are responsible to them up to speed. And if that disruption is occurring every 12 to 16 months, you can rest assured that it creates for a less than ideal relationship. So I think that there are 4 key components that have stood in the way of most traditional MSSPs being successful, and fundamentally what underscores the reason why that traditional model is dying, and dying a very quick and unceremonious death. The first of which is they lack contextual awareness. So they implement a SIM, they implement an IPS IDS, and we acknowledge the fact, those who've worked with MSSPs I think would agree, that one of the major challenges is they're getting still a lot of false positive outputs. Well, why is that? Is it because they're not doing their job? No. If we understand what their job is, we can't expect a different outcome, because what is their job? Their job is to continuously write custom correlations rules and import custom use cases as a means of trying to fine-tune out false positive outputs. But they're always 3 steps behind the adversary and the ever-changing threat landscape. And fundamentally underpinning the delivery of false positive intelligence is the fact that they lacked contextual awareness. They don't have a clear view into your environment to be able to make informed decisions as to what is and what is not a true positive call to action. The second piece is that they are delivering unactionable intelligence. So not actionable intelligence, but unactionable intelligence. And in fact, having been in this business for many years, and specifically on this side of the equation, I can tell you that one of the ways in which a traditional MSSP metered their success was based on the number of alerts, SEV1 security incidents, that were escalated from their SOC to the client. It didn't matter that 9 out of 10 were false positives upon your own due diligence and investigation, on average 20 minutes per ticket. It was simply to show at the end of the month, in the monthly operations report, that we escalated 120 incidents. And the number on paper without context sounds good, but in reality, it doesn't represent anything of value. Number 3 is complexity. We've talked about the complexity of their business model. And again, I think that that has stood in the way and will continue to stand in the way of an MSSP being able to generate real value for money spent. And finally, underpinning everything that we've just said is the recognition that the threat landscape is evolving at a rapid pace. Adversaries are constantly evolving their tactics and techniques in order to be able to evade or obfuscate even the latest and greatest technology that's out there. And by definition, the MSSP finds themselves 2 or 3 steps behind those determined adversaries who fundamentally you're paying the MSSP to be able to give you contextual intelligence and awareness of. Let me talk to you a little bit about Stratejm. So as I mentioned, the company was founded in 2013. It was founded by my business partner and our president and CEO, John Menezes. Some of you may know John because his sort of claim to fame is that in the year 2000, he started Canada's first managed security services provider, a company called CyberClicks, that among its sort of notable points in history was the first to have introduced security incident and event management into the Canadian marketplace back in the year 2002 with a platform called Network Intelligence that was subsequently acquired by RSA Security and rebranded Envision. The business was built around both PCI DSS and SOX compliance, and in April of 2010 it was acquired by the Herjavec Group, and that's where John and I actually got to know one another because I was at the acquiring party. So John had joined us for a period of 2 years as our Senior Vice President of Technology and Operations. It was in this period of time that we had forged a very strong personal and professional relationship, and where we decided that fundamentally the traditional approach that was being taken was not working, and that fundamentally with the evolution of cloud and cloud services and what that represented to business in terms of agility and flexibility, that there was a better way and that we wanted to chart that path forward. Fast forward, we have 54 employees, all of whom are based in the GTA, our head office being located in Mississauga, just south of the airport. We have 4 core focus practice areas. This is to suggest that in each of these domains, we have real-world subject matter expertise at the executive level to help guide our practice. We do not want to be a jack of all trades, master of none. We believe that fundamentally different industries and verticals have unique security challenges that need to be addressed very specifically, and that's precisely what we want to offer. We offer 24/7 business assurance, born through our state-of-the-art cyber intelligence center, which is based in Mississauga, and we're very proud to be able to lay claim to having launched Canada's first, and again, with a high degree of humility, we now say North America's premier cloud-based security as a service. And on that platform, we have 85 customers and counting. In fact, that number is a little outdated. The number is just shy of 90. It's 89 as of today. So what is security as a service? And what does security as a service offer to solve some of the challenges that I just articulated as it pertains to a traditional MSSP? When John and I went down this path of having envisioned this platform, and effectively what we would be doing at Stratejm, we came through our experience to understand what are the core tenets, both in terms of technology and in terms of output, that we would expect to see within a mature environment that has taken the security challenge seriously. And we looked at things like intelligent security incident management. We looked at things like malware detection. We looked at things like threat intelligence ingestion as a means of creating an early warning system of detection and truly aligning our analysts to threat hunting activities. We looked at things like vulnerability management, internal and external scans of all in-scope devices as a precursor to an effective patch management program. And perhaps the most important thing on this slide is what you'll find in the first column, second from the top, asset management, or the need to build and maintain a dynamic configuration management database. This is the context. This is the core of what we do. It gives our team the contextual awareness necessary to be able to apply human intelligence, due diligence, and triage to all related security incidents and events that then enable us to have a zero KPI for false positive output. And we didn't develop any of these solutions from the ground up. We don't have developers either in Canada or outside of Canada that are working on open source code. We went to the market and we leveraged the relationships that we had with a number of commercial vendors and established our own success criteria in terms of what solutions we were ultimately pick to fill each of these gaps. One of those success criteria I don't mind sharing with you was that each solution by design had to support secure multi-tenancy, because it was through standardization that we were going to be able to attain the highest level of automation and effectively avoid the challenge that traditional MSSPs have had when I referenced the complexity of their model, where we do not have a direct parallel relationship between the number of analysts that we employ and the number of clients that they serve. Our magic was in taking all of these separate and disparate platforms, seamlessly vertically integrating them through our ITSM provider, which is ServiceNow, in order to be able to offer holistic 360-degree visibility inside of our client environments. And what we do is we create a dynamic baseline of normalization. What is the normal behavior of systems, applications, and users in the environment? And when we detect any type of suspicious activity, indicator of compromise, or anomalous behavior, it's at that point that our team engages. And again, we don't act as simply a man in the middle where a SEV1 security incident is populated inside of the SOC and we escalate it to the client, we become a true extension of your security team because we have the contextual awareness to be able to do so. So we apply human intelligence, due diligence, and triage before making a clear determination as to whether or not what we are perceiving or what the systems have intelligently identified as being a true positive security incident is in fact a true positive. And only at that point do we escalate to you, and when that escalation happens, it comes with full context. So we provide you with clear direction as to what is the issue, where does the gap exist, what steps and actions need to be undertaken in order to close the gap, and finally, when those steps and actions are undertaken, validation of such. And when we built the platform, we didn't want to build in a vacuum. It wasn't good enough to be able to say, trust us, we recognize, what a mature security program looks like. We wanted to build it in alignment with an accepted industry best practice and framework, and we selected NIST. And we've actually undertaken a white paper by a third party that demonstrates how our security as a service accelerates compliance with the NIST cybersecurity framework. There are 5 core tenets of NIST. First, you have to identify all assets that are connected to the network. What is their role and responsibility to the business? How are they interconnected or dependent on one another? Who are your privileged users? What levels of access do they have, and why? And you'll notice, of course, that we have the asset management piece here on this slide. Every item that's listed in bold represents an optional feature set or enhancement to the core service. So with Stratejm, with security as a service, as the threat landscape changes, as your business needs change and evolve, you don't have to go outside of the partnership in order to be able to get those enhanced capabilities that you need to be able to solve the security challenge. Next is protection. And of course, we leverage the threat intelligence for that purpose and have the capability of being able to integrate things like network access control, multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, patch management, security ratings, the list goes on. Next is detection. And this is where the core solution focuses the majority of its efforts and energy. We have the SIM, we have the vulnerability management, we have the 24/7 cyber intelligence center, system health monitoring, and again, the capability of building in file integrity management. Next is response. We build a customized incident response plan for all of our customers. And this is a tailored approach, a consultative approach that takes into account who in the zoo. So do you have someone responsible for corporate communications? Do you have an on-staff general counsel? Does the left hand know what the right hand is doing, and what is the appropriate way to respond in the incident of a significant security breach or data exfiltration? We also have the capability through our partnership with Cytelligence of being able to offer incident and breach response retainers as well as tabletop exercises. And finally, recover. We want to be able to incorporate lessons learned into recovery strategies moving forward. And again, this is one area where personally in my experience, I can tell you that the traditional MSSP approach has failed miserably. So, when we escalate an event that is proven upon your own due diligence to be a false positive, I think most security professionals are aware of the fact that we don't live in a perfect world. And security is very much not a science. It's an ever-evolving art form. And so professionals are prepared to accept the fact that we're not perfect. And by the way, we are not perfect. I think we're doing very good, and I can share with you the numbers that we have. But I can tell, in terms of accuracy of detection. But I can tell you this, if we escalate a false positive event, and you come back to us and inform us of such, one time is fine. If we make that same mistake a second time or a third time, I think we'd all agree that that's a problem. And this is precisely what we're geared up to avoid entirely. This is an image of our 24/7 Cyber Intelligence Center. It's hard to gain perspective on the size of the facility. I can tell you that there are approximately 18 workstations inside the facility today, expanded capability of up to 26, By the way, at no point in time are all 18 workstations filled. But again, when we built the facility, when we built the business, we built it with the appreciation and understanding, belief that we would be growing. It is state-of-the-art, modern, and secure, built in Mississauga. We have attained secret-level facility clearance by the Canadian Industrial Security Directorate. We are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant. Of course, there's HD video surveillance throughout the facility. We have biometric access as part of the physical controls that are in place to ensure that only authorized employees are able to gain access to the facility. And it has been built with slab-to-slab construction with a man trap to ensure that there's no tailgating in and out. Conditions of employment within Stratejm is that our analysts effectively have to sign away their right to privacy when they are working for us, and that is to tell you that we mandate that they must download our version of MDM on their own personal smart device so that when they walk inside of that facility, all recording capabilities, both audio and video, are immediately disabled. Every keystroke is tracked and audited for 30 days. So we take security very seriously. And so we tell the market that security as a service solves three major challenges facing the enterprise. The first of which are never-ending requests for additional CapEx and OpEx associated with building, maintaining, and maturing an enterprise cybersecurity program. The second is a lack of actionable intelligence that's being generated from existing security platforms, network devices, and third-party service providers. And finally, an inability to properly operationalize, let alone optimize, existing security platforms or net new investments. And so that brings me to the end of today's presentation. Hopefully you've gotten a sense of how security as a service is different from a traditional managed security services provider offering. And I would encourage you to ask any questions either now or I'm going to be hosting a private lunch, I think for 20 people, first 20 that want to show up if you want to avoid the buffet line. And I'll give you the room that we're in. We're in the Fallsview Studio C room. So anybody who would like to join me a little bit more privately, be able to ask any questions and certainly indulge in what I hope will be a great lunch. It is a plated lunch. By all means, I encourage you to do so. But with that being said, I certainly do appreciate your time today, and thank you so much for the consideration. Thank you.